Hello and welcome to the bike show. As per usual, we're standing outside a bike shop. In this case, 4Ways Motorcycles. They are dealers in Kawasaki, Triumph and Sim. So Matt and Harry thought, what a better way to start the show than with some Hondas.
It's true, we've been riding Hondas, which, let's be fair, Harry, we haven't been riding many Hondas, have we, the past few years? Aside from the fact that we actually have signs of life from Honda now, because we've had, Donovan was on the world launch of the Africa Twin end of last year.
And there is a new CEO of Honda who apparently likes bikes now, so we're promised new stuff in the future.
But, let's be honest, Honda's been remarkably quiet ever since the big crash in 2008. All the manufacturers reined their horns in a little bit, but Honda particularly didn't really debut anything new for a long, long time. And I'm an owner of, I've been a past owner of a CBR600 and a Fireblade, and look, I've gone grey since the last time
Waiting for a new one to come.
Either of those models.
Look, last year we did test the VFR800F, the sports tourer. I wasn't very kind to it.
You weren't unkind to it?
More specifically, I was just unkind to Honda themselves. I mean, 300 million motorcycles, and that's the best they could come up with. It wasn't exactly a technical tour de force, was
No, and it wasn't a new model. It's but also, I mean, if you think about it, it's a legendary model, the VFR800. I mean, I remember lusting after one of these in the late 1980s.
But you're very old, obviously.
But it's always been regarded as one of the ultimate all-round sport tourer kind of bikes, the VFR800. And as you said, you reviewed it last year.
I think I fell asleep.
Yeah, well, you've been a bit harsh.
I was a bit harsh.
It's remarkably sensible. It's pretty well built. The engine these days is nothing special, particularly.
They've smoothed out the VTEC variable valve, kick-in, which...
OK, well, the reason we bring this up is that we've just ridden another VFR800, haven't we, basically? But, it's called the X, the Crossrunner.
So it's basically their take on a road adventure bike, whatever they call it, a street enduro kind of bike. It's just a VFR800F, different styling.
Now, when it first appeared, which I think I went on the original launch about 2011, I was sort of impressed with it, but in a way it was ahead of its time, because if you think about it, it is now a very common, very desirable segment of the market, with your multi-stradas and your S1000s XRs, your Kawasaki Versuses, I mean, the Triumph Tigers, The street enduro is really happening. I think possibly Honda was just a little bit ahead of its time with a middleweight version like that. Now, this new Crossrunner has been updated visually. Yes. It is a damn sight better looking than it used to be.
Not difficult.
No. And it has that kind of VFR family front face, you know, with the headlights, a bit like the VFR800.
Yeah.
So, OK, look, it is essentially exactly the same bike then, isn't it? Underneath, we have what? The same chassis and the same engine with the same power output.
Yes, about 105 brake horsepower or so. Not going to set the world alight, but then again, it's good for its class. It's kind of up there with its class.
Yeah.
I don't want to be unkind to another Honda, but it's just lacking a little something, like innovation.
It's in a tough marketplace as well.
Look, there's a hell of a lot of competition. As you said, there's the Triumph, there's the Kawasaki's, there's even the Yamaha's
Tracer.
The Tracer, the MT-09. There's a lot of competition, and as you said, Honda kind of set the ball rolling, but then they kind of dropped it and let everybody pick it up and run with it, and I don't think they've done quite enough to really move it on a bit. They've matched everybody, but they haven't moved it on at all. Price,
you're looking at just over 140,000 Rand, which is a couple of thousand Rand cheaper than the actual VFR800F.
Yes.
To me, the Crossrunner is, I'd say it's the better bike.
I'd say
simply because it's vastly more comfortable.
Yes, it's much more usable in an urban environment, even touring. The only thing, and I wish, and if you read any road test review of this, why didn't they put a slightly adjustable screen? It's not tall enough to stop the buffeting. It's just a few inches, a couple of inches of movement up would have made a big
basic.
difference.
It should be there. The clocks are...
Clocks are perfectly legible and readable. It now comes with a two-way traction control, which you can turn off.
Yeah.
Our test bike had heated grips.
And at 140 grand, that's actually right bang in the middle of it, because believe it or not, we were looking overseas. Places like the UK, you can pay £10,000 for a Crossrunner.
And that's 240,000 Rand here. So
it's a bargain at the moment. It really is an absolute bargain.
I wouldn't think it's going to stay that way, but you never know. I mean, it is. Look, it's bang on the mark in price compared to its rivals.
Yeah.
It's basically, I mean, and I don't think there's too much to choose between all of them. I think it's basically, if you're a Honda guy, you'll like this bike. If you're a Triumph guy, I don't think you're going to be swayed over to a Honda.
Well, look, it's a V4. So, like all of these bikes, I think if you notice, they all tend to have quite interesting engines. It's either, you know, it's a V-twin or a triple. You very rarely get just a boring old inline four there.
Yeah.
So the engine makes a fantastic noise. It does have this slightly annoying VTEC system, which I don't know why they persevere with this. So it operates at 2 valves per cylinder. Underneath, I think it's about 6.5,
something like that, yeah.
And then when you get to that, it opens to 2 extra valves per cylinder, becomes a 4-valve head motor sort of thing, and then the idea being that you get bigger torque low down and a bit more power high up, and
Yes. It's pretty pointless, yes, you're right.
it just changes the tone of the, and you can't really feel any difference. And if you want to give it more torque, just make it a VFR850 or a VFR900, you know what I mean? It's technology for the sake of technology. Now, Honda was always the biggest leader in this field. I mean, if you wanted to see what was happening in the world of bikes, you would go and see what Honda's doing. But like we said earlier, there are signs of life.
I mean, they're promising, and it's how vague the promise is, 3 new superbikes.
We're hoping, yeah, but I've been saying this, I've given up, I've been saying this for years now and looking a fool every year. Perhaps we should invite, maybe someone from Honda South Africa who's watching.
There's a challenge. Somebody from Honda South Africa, come on the show and tell us what Honda's got in store, if you're allowed to tell us, but just come and reassure us that Honda aren't just sitting back and twiddling their thumbs.
Which they're not, because we've got the Africa Twin, but before we dig ourselves an even deeper hole, which even you can't see out the top of, I think perhaps we should go to an ad break, and we'll be back after the break with a man who is quite possibly the most influential in motorcycling in South Africa.